Hey everyone, Andre here along with Tom and Tris to discuss the news of the day. Aonuma got a new haircut, and let me tell you, it is pretty sharp looking, is it not?
I was impressed. Yeah, it's gonna help differentiate on thumbnails, the timeline, and
The Aonuma.
remind me that I have to get one myself.
Yeah, Aonuma timeline.
Yeah, exactly. That's the timeline we need. You know, Kirby may not have one, Zelda definitely has one, and Aonuma has more of one than anyone, it seems. In any case, yes, Zelda has been delayed. In case you didn't see the news, it's coming officially now, spring 2023. They included a new gameplay clip just to give us a little something to latch onto, which was nice of them. So we're going to discuss all of this, but before we get into it, I want to make sure that you can all hear us okay. So chat, let us know how we're all sounding. Tris, how are you doing? So chat has something to go off of.
I'm doing pretty well. This was not the news any of us expected this morning.
It was not. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, did not expect this news today, but I did kind of expect it at one point this year.
All right. Looks like the music is a little loud. I turned down the music, chat. Is that better? Are we good on the music front? That's the hardest thing to get right in these. Yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say I can't hear the music, but I'm gonna guess it's house techno.
Yeah. Music is still too loud. Okay. Wow. I've really turned it down. Dang. All right. I turned down a lot more. So I also have some other music in here, which I don't. No, that's it. Okay.
I love how right when you said that, someone says turn it up. I can't hear it.
Yeah, go figure. The least
dog
important
just says yes.
The least important part of these discussions, for the live discussions, is the music, and it's the hardest part to get right. So, now people are like, the music's gone now. Awesome. All right, I think I turned it back up a little bit, so hopefully, I think we found a good middle ground.
Chris is in chat.
Hey, Chris is here.
Hello, Chris.
What's up, Chris? Good seeing you. Yes.
How's your short movie coming along?
I like how Chris says they finally caught one of these live. What do you mean? You've been on these live before, Chris. What do you mean finally caught one of these live? What are you talking about? All right, the music is gone now, says Dawn. All right, I'm turning it back up a little bit. I should stop dealing with the music. Period. It's the most annoying thing for these. And in any case, I think we're about good to go now. It should hopefully be fine. I think. So, yeah, Zelda has been officially delayed, which. I don't know how you two felt. I've been talking about this forever. Like, I've felt this in my bones. I talked about our 22 predictions. I've been talking about it in a variety of live streams. And I've been calling it even before our 2022 predictions. It just didn't feel right. Like, Nintendo, first off, merely targeting 2022 did not seem like a huge sign of confidence. And plus, given how loaded their year is, on top of Pokemon being announced for this year as well, not that thing that caused a delay, but with how many games they already had coming, I'm like, there's no way Breath of the Wild 2 is coming this year. So waking up to see this news, I was like Iago in Aladdin. That was like the least exciting surprise, or like the most unsurprising surprise of all time. But I don't know, how do you two feel about this?
I mean, there was a level of expectation that it was going to be delayed with how long it's been since we last heard about it, and the last thing we heard, as you mentioned, was they're simply targeting it, and constantly they'll mention, they'll be like, oh, we don't have any updates on it now, but, you know, it definitely felt targeting this year, with more titles we learned about this year, was starting to feel a little unlikely. I mean, with Pokemon and Xenoblade 3 in the fall, alone, like those two alone, we don't even know what else is coming in the fall. That's stacked already.
Yep.
And I think moving Zelda out of that, whether it's specifically for more development time or simply to give it its own time to shine outside of those, whichever it actually is, I think it's a smart idea so it has its breathing room outside of all those.
Mm-hmm. Tom, what do you think?
I'm gonna just go off Tristan's point that a very safe year to move it past those, and you can kind of point at when we have E3 and stuff, like they would have Breath of the Wild there, even though we knew it would be a while away, the sequel. And it's just kind of like that's one of their main games for like the promise of future games, something they do one time. It's like, guys, you can look forward to this, buy a Switch, or stay tuned while having the closer announcement stuff there. So, I mean, it's going to be maybe their most important title. So take all the time you need, especially if the Switch is going to have a very long lifespan. Like, imagine if they release it and it's good, it can last for the rest of the entire life of the Switch going on forward.
Right, and kind of to that point, I know you didn't mean this, but like Nintendo can't afford for this just to be a good game. It has to be an amazing game. And I think that's partially why it's been delayed, I'm sure. I've seen some people concerned that maybe this means there's like major difficulties with the game, and I don't, or they're having major challenges with the game, and I don't think that's the case. They confirmed, they gave us actually a smaller window now than we've ever had before, being spring 2023. Now, there's always a chance they could delay it farther, of course, but that's only a few months out from when we were expecting it anyway, so it's actually not even that big of a delay. It sounds worse than it is, because we only knew 2022 before, and it could have come at any point during the year, I suppose. But I was always expecting an end-of-the-year title, at best, going by their estimate. So yeah, it's not that big of a delay, and whatever delays this game needs, I'm fine with them taking it. They've been developing, of course, I imagine largely remotely for the past couple of years because of the pandemic, which I'm sure has affected their timetable to some degree.
Oh yeah.
And I think I think we may already be at the point, or we're quickly reaching the point where its development cycle is longer than the one for the original Breath of the Wild. Which actually has me more excited, Triss, and Tom. I'm excited to see what exactly they're doing here, because they actually teased some new information here, which, I mean, not that new, but it confirms some things that, it helped clarify some things that I think, at least I was worried about, by specifically stating that, in addition to taking place on the ground and in the air, as they had also said, the expanded world goes beyond that, and there will be an even wider variety of features you can enjoy, including new encounters and new gameplay features. So we of course already know about the caves, which I hope that's not all they're talking about. But it sounds like this world isn't going to be just the same world that we knew before, even with the additions like the sky and I assume caves. It sounds like there's gonna be more to it, which is a good confirmation. But that's one worry I had. Is there really are they gonna be able to capture or recapture the element of exploration before, if you're exploring things you've already seen before, by and large?
Well, thankfully, it sounds like there will be more than what we've already explored before. And I think mainly the sky, but maybe underground too, with some of the things that we've seen seemingly being underground or in caves. So it sounds like it's taking the world of Breath of the Wild and then doing more. And you made a good point too with the development cycle. We all assumed that they were doing a sequel to Breath of the Wild to save development time and costs, so they can get a brand new Zelda game out in 2 to 3 years
like Majora's Mask.
Basically like Majora's Mask. But at this point, I mean, the original Breath of the Wild started development in 2012-ish and released in 2017. This started development or pre-production or whatever you want to call it in 2017, and by end of this year, that's also 5 years. So the fact that it's releasing after this year, it actually gets more development time. And I think that kind of puts to rest this isn't just the simple sequel we all expected it to be, like Majora's Mask. I think they're actually doing some pretty big significant things here that warranted this amount of time being put in, even with how much might be getting reused.
Right.
That's the complete opposite of Majora's Mask, though. But Majora's Mask was good, so I'm conflicted. But it makes sense if it takes time for a better chance of being good. I mean, that was probably a risk with Majora's Mask to turn around in 1 year or whatever.
Yeah, that was, I forget the time period on that. It was like a year and a half, maybe less, but it was nuts. And I can't believe they pulled off that impressive of a game, that short of a timetable. But yeah, the fact that they're spending more time on a sequel when, a large chunk of Breath of the Wild's development time is devoted just to figuring out what the hell the game was, what the systems were, what the mechanics were. The fact that they already had all that in place when designing a sequel and it's still not out, some might think that's a bad sign. I'm hoping that's a great sign. What the hell are they adding to this game, right? It's not just the Hyrule we've seen, as I mentioned, as they kind of teased here. There's more to it, and I'm so excited to see what more there is. And of course we got the new clip of the Master Sword, which we'll get to soon enough, which does kind of offer a little glimmer, a little taste of what new stuff there could be here. New. It's almost old in a way, I guess. I don't even know what that is. It looks old at the least. But yeah, but anyways, getting back to the delay real quick. I have seen, the sentiment has been all over the place. Some people are like, yeah, take your time, that's great. Others agree with that, but some are like, some are hurt by the delay, they were really hoping for it this year. Ali D here in the chat says, I'm not surprised, but I'm hurt. It feels like a dagger to the heart. And I get that, it's a huge, exciting game. Who doesn't want to play it sooner than later? But ultimately, these things do tend to result in a better product in the end. And as I said earlier, this is the game they can't afford to miss with. And I'm just really curious. I would be curious to know, what these final months of development are going to be used for, because it's not for adding major new content. This is for probably refinement and possibly fixing things that may need to be addressed. And I wish we could get insight into that. You know, like why specifically was this delayed? They only told us they need more time. But I'm curious to know. You know, I just want to see this game in its final form now.
Absolutely. The sooner we get to see more about it, the better.
Yeah.
It's like find out later. It's like a last second table flip, and it's like we need to do this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they need to port it for the Switch too, right?
Someone in the chat, I actually just scrolled off the comments. Someone had mentioned like, could this tie into a new Switch? I wouldn't rule out the possibility. I wouldn't bet on it. But I think it is possible, especially, you know, given the launch timing now being it's seemingly around March, you know, somewhere in that time frame, being spring more specifically. Like maybe they could drop a new Switch then, like they did with the first Switch in, you know, March 3rd. So it's possible. Anything's possible. I don't know. Not expecting it, but it'd be nice. It would be cool if we were able to play Breath of the Wild 2 that looked even better in 4K, possibly on a rumored Switch 2. But anyways, that's more beside the point because we're not expecting it. So, but yeah, but the good thing about this is we do have a launch window, spring. It's a small, you know, we haven't had anything that concrete yet. But it is interesting that we still don't have a title, Triss. We still don't know what to call this game. Even in today's title, like for our video, we're like, should we call it Breath of the Wild 2, the sequel still? Like Breath of the Wild sequel? Like what?
It's, you know, they mentioned before that the title of the game would be a spoiler. And I feel like that's because usually with Nintendo games, they don't just reveal the title of the game, they reveal the logo with the game, like the whole visual for it.
Yeah.
And now that we've seen this ruined Master Sword, and how often Zelda games have the Master Sword in the title, I'm pretty sure that's part of why we haven't seen it yet. I'm surprised we still have it now, which implies the subtitle to the game probably still is a spoiler of some kind, but I'll be shocked if this ruined Master Sword is not part of that logo now. It better be.
Yeah, it should be pretty impressive to see that. Like, I could imagine it even what the logo would look like. I think we had that rumor yesterday of some other title that wasn't a spoiler at all, but like if it's a title like I want to be a super lame here, but like Master Sword is dead. Like a title like that would be a pretty much a giveaway. So.
Or Phi, wherever the heck it is. Triss, do you remember? Yeah, what was a rumored title that came out yesterday from our good friend Paul Gale on his blog?
Oh god,
it was Breath of Duality or something like that.
Was it Breath of Duality?
Yeah,
I think that sounds right. Yeah. I don't know if that's going to be the title, but the timing of everything is just hilarious, given the fact that this delay happened right after. It's almost like Nintendo's like, oh god, title's out there, panic, get the delay out there. That's probably not the title, but you know, who knows? It really could be anything. I mean, the thing with most Zelda titles, like I hear it, I'm like, that can't be the title, but then you get used to it, it's fine, right? I remember Twilight Princess being an especially odd-sounding title. And of course, even with Breath of the Wild, Tom and I struggled for a while. Like, we kept on calling it Breath of the Air, or
Breath of the Wind.
Breath of the Wind, that was it.
Wind.
Yeah. So, yeah, who knows what this new one's going to be called, but I guess it could tie into the Master Sword, Triss, whether in logo or the title. So, I guess, hold on here. B. James says there's a new leak that Link's arm could transform into a bomb cannon, a hammer, and a hookshot. Have you seen this, Triss?
I haven't seen that, but that makes me think of the concept art for the original Breath of the Wild. And I think they literally had all three of those things in that.
Yeah.
Where so, I mean, it'd be reusing old concepts, I wouldn't be surprised, but...
I should say
that also
leaking quotes, because it's probably green text or something. So I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock into that necessarily. In any case, that wouldn't be that especially surprising as well. It does kind of like tie into the things we've seen. But one of the things we did get in this announcement as well, beyond Aonuma's new haircut, which again looks amazing, is we got a new gameplay clip, or more of a cutscene clip from Breath of the Wild 2. It's only 5 seconds long. In fact, I actually have it here. Let me go ahead and play it on a loop so people can take a look at this. Yeah. So we get a look at the Master Sword now. Triss, you did a whole analysis on the thing, a whole 4-minute analysis.
Yes.
So what are your findings so far? What are you kind of thinking is happening here?
Well, not just so far, because the video's out now, but yeah, so it seems like this is some sort of process to restore the sword. Link's on top of these weird ruins. His arm, or hand specifically, starts glowing, kind of like when the Triforce would appear on his hand in like older Zelda games, but in this case it's whatever the thing tied to his hand is now.
Right.
The Master Sword glows, he pulls it out, and we see it looks like it starts restoring or it's reacting to whatever's going on here. To me, this almost looks like, I didn't mention this in the analysis, but the idea just came out now. This almost looks like the cutscene that would play after beating a boss. Almost like in Skyward Sword when you were taking the Goddess Blade to the different fires or the different flames to power it up after beating a boss. It kind of gives that feeling to me. So I kind of think there's going to be two major parts of the quest, the main quest to this game, kind of like Skyward Swords. You're trying to find Zelda, since we know she's missing in this game. She fell in that pit that we saw in two trailers now.
No, she's dead.
Yeah, the new spirit in this game, just like all the champions. No, so trying to find Zelda, and the other half of it is trying to repair the Master Sword. Like how in Skyward Sword you were building the Master Sword. So it would make a nice parallel, and it would also kind of make sense why we had that Skyward Sword HD recently, since the original Breath of the Wild had some sort of light, but it had connections to Twilight Princess HD with the amiibo. So maybe in this case, having Skyward Sword as one of the newer Zeldas re-released before it to kind of help people make the connections that are going to be there.
Right. Juan in the chat says, so awesome he looks like the hero from 10,000 years ago legend, which is what we saw in Breath of the Wild, right? So yeah, that is neat. And so I was gonna ask you about that, Tris, because throughout your analysis you kept calling it the same. You kept calling Link the same Link. Do you think that is actually the same Link? Like why do you think he looks? How do you explain the visual difference?
I do think it is the same Link from the that we had in Breath of the Wild 1. I mean, we see the Link in that same Breath of the Wild like outfit with the thing on his arm when he uses the Stasis Rune in the past trailer. So we know the same Link has that thing going on.
Right.
But maybe he has a different outfit when in the sky. Maybe it's a completely different region, something tied to some sort of abilities or something that he needs for that. Almost like if he was wearing like Sheikah clothing for some like the Sheikah monk, and he's on some sort of like journey for that. So it's more symbolic, I think, the clothing.
But he has tattoos now too, doesn't he?
He does, but it looks more like it's almost like corruption on the arm that like goes up the arm and it kind of like creeps in onto more of his body. So it's hard to say.
It is.
I definitely see why people make the connection. Oh, it looks like the ancient hero. But I think the point is this Link looks like the ancient hero now, and he's not becoming the ancient hero, but he is living up to that legacy now. He is fulfilling that role again, not literally playing as the ancient Link.
Yeah, I know that's where. Yeah, I mean, I mean, that would be very unusual for a Zelda, because I don't think we've had a game in the series where you're actually playing as different characters. Right? Like, yeah, even Ocarina of Time, you're playing. It's the same Link. He just embodies a different form, and that could be the case here as well. Like even Majora's Mask, where you're like literally embodying the spirits of other people. Like you're still the same Link as well. So it would be odd if it weren't the same Link, unless. Unless it's that. I mean, rather maybe you're not. I mean, the other option is you're not switching Links. You just are straight up playing as a new Link for the entirety of this game, or a different version of Link.
The other option, which is a lot more tragic in my opinion, is the same Link is the hero from 10,000 years ago, and he's sent back in time to that point. And he's stuck in essentially making him being stuck in a loop. He's the modern hero sent to the past to become the ancient hero. And creates that legacy. That's
an interesting idea. I hadn't considered that. That's kind of cool. That's an interesting thought. Pink says, "Yep, sounds like you're hitting on something there, Tris." So interesting idea.
That would be really tragic too.
Yeah, that would be. That's kind of dark, but I'm all about. I mean, it feels like the direct Zelda sequels tend to go darker. Zelda 2, I think, was darker. Majora's Mask was darker. So maybe Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be that darker Zelda, right? So
that's like the end of The Dark Tower by Stephen King. Sorry, spoilers there if you ever want to read that. It's been a while.
We're gonna spoil Sixth Sense next. Twitter hit. You're gonna spoil Darth Vader as Luke's dad.
It's either that or Nintendo has been watching one too many Marvel movies and wants like a multiverse of Links at this point. I'm sorry, I just want Wind Waker Link in with regular Link.
Yes, give me Wind Waker Link.
That'd be amazing. I'm gonna bring oh, go ahead, Tris.
I was gonna say, actually, Tom, you bring up Wind Waker Link, and that actually raises a question that I wanted to ask you guys in chat and see what everybody thinks now. Now that this game, this sequel to Breath of the Wild, isn't coming out this year, we don't have Zelda content for 2022.
That we know of.
Typically that we know of. That's my point. That we know of. There's typically at least something, even if it's small, every year. So do you guys think we could finally see the rumored Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD ports come to the Switch this year, to kind of fill out that the Zelda quota, or something else?
Yeah, I think no. I think we will definitely get something Zelda. I mean, they have. It can't be that much effort to bring those ports over. Even though like Wind Waker HD benefited greatly from the gamepad, you can also play it with a Pro Controller. It already has a control scheme built in that works on the Switch. I would be honestly shocked if we don't see at least a Zelda port this year, or some kind of smaller, or some kind of weird smaller Zelda spin-off, like a Cadence of Hyrule or something.
Right.
I'd expect more report than anything at this point. But yeah, I would honestly be shocked if we don't get anything. And we're still super early into the year, and Nintendo tends to announce games, kind of all throughout the year, at least certainly by E3. And I'm sure that they have something else in store. Like, we can't go every Nintendo Direct with not having a single new announcement for the year. And the fact that they already have such a packed year, I just tweeted about this. I think they have at least 10 games remaining for the year. Not even, not counting Breath of the Wild 2 now. Like, that's nuts. Yeah. And so the fact that there's probably more on top of it, yeah, this year is going to be a very busy year.
Oh yeah,
I like Pink says Ages Seasons port. It's like they know what Tris wants.
Yes.
Yep. Would they release them as a combined game, you think, or would they do two like lower priced games perhaps, or full price games to Nintendo?
I really hope they don't do the Pokemon style for those. I think it would be interesting if they were remade in the Link's Awakening art style and then released as like a double pack together. That from the title screen you access one or the other.
Right.
But I think Famicom Detective Club style, where you get a discount if you buy both.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
that could work too.
Yeah, I want to say, like, I feel like $40 each would be fair, but yeah, Tom's already shaking his head. Well, maybe.
I'm cheap. I want like $30 each.
Oh, no, I mean, I'd love cheaper too. I'm just thinking, like, realistically by Nintendo standards, like, would they even go $40 for either? But I feel like if you're gonna release two games at once, you have to offer some kind of way of making them cheaper. Like, to $120 to get the combined total package does feel a little much. So in any case, though, I don't know if those are going to be the remakes we get, although that would be nice. It's possible, but they have the engine for it based on Link's Awakening. Yep. But I do think it's more likely we would see either Wind Waker or Twilight Princess, or maybe they'll throw a curveball in there, give us like a HD version of the Ocarina of Time remake or 3DS remake or Majora's Mask. I would love to see Ocarina of Time 3DS in HD. I think that would be amazing. So that'd be a fun surprise.
Would they have to update it again graphically to keep our expectations in check?
Yeah, that might be where it gets a little dicey. So, and with the fact that we have the N64 version on Switch Online, probably makes it unlikely, I think. But hey, I want to circle back to the Master Sword bit though, because now I want to talk about how we've talked about how a little bit how it could fit into the story. But I want to talk about how this fits into the gameplay. Because actually a couple things here, Tris. So as you touched on, of course, it looks like it's in a decayed or corrupted state. And by the way, I don't know if it's just me, but it looks like it even has, like, it almost shares like the design we've seen throughout Breath of the Wild with like the circular, like I'm thinking like specifically like outside shrines, like the shrine material, where you can see like the circles on it. Is that?
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean with that. And I'm not sure that's intentional, because usually those are more like added structures like on top of it. Whereas this looks more like it almost looks like the sword is dipped in acid, if that makes sense.
It kind of
looks like it's melted away, like there's holes in it. Like it looks like it was corrupted into that state. I do completely see what you mean though with that kind of pattern design. And I wonder if that actually might be because maybe the sword is only kept in its state, in a good state normally because of Sheikah magic. And now because of this, it's sort of decaying like the Sheikah tech, which would be an interesting take, but...
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. Real quick, I'll get back to my point in a moment. Rafe Alfaro with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Rafe says, "Hi guys, I think the delay will make the game as amazing as it can be. Hopefully we'll get some Zelda content while we wait. Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD plays." Exactly, we were just talking about that. I think the delay is ultimately a good thing. I'm totally fine with it. Yeah. And hopefully we do have a filler title in there. Wind Waker HD, I'd be all down for playing it again. So, even if I'll miss a gamepad, which is something I wouldn't say too often. But, back to the Master Sword. Looking at this, so what I'm wondering now is, so obviously you end Breath of the Wild, or by the time you finish Breath of the Wild, you probably have the Master Sword. So that's something you probably have by the end of the game. And this is in fact a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild, although it obviously also is at least partially prequel, it seems. I mean, to some degree, we don't fully know how the time element's working here. But looking at the sword, it's making me, and the fact that Triss, as you mentioned, like it looks like you're powering it up. This is kind of like a smart way, gameplay-wise, of like implementing something that you already have in your inventory. So like in Breath of the Wild, the Master Sword is kind of like a late game addition.
Yeah.
Because it also kind of like, I don't want to say breaks the game, but it definitely kind of changed the game, because every other item at that point was breakable. Master Sword is the only one that isn't. Now, it does run out of energy eventually, you have to wait for it to recharge, but by the time you got it, it did feel nice. It's like, oh, great, finally a weapon that isn't breaking on me constantly.
Man.
Yeah. so in
Goron sword.
So for Breath of the Wild 2, that wouldn't quite make sense, right? Like, if you still have the sword that is unbreakable, and OP, and, you know, powered up, like, that's not going to work for the type of gameplay that they've had unless they're, like, totally changing things. So it seems like in this case, the sword, I wonder if it's going to get progressively more powerful as you go through the game, whether it's by way of shrines, or, as you mentioned, Triss, possibly by beating bosses, you know, with that cutscene maybe being from a boss fight. So that's why I'm wondering if that's their way of balancing it here, where you have the Master Sword now because you already got it. But the catch is, it's not that powerful. In fact, it's probably weaker than maybe other weapons you find in the environment, so they can maintain the style of gameplay they had before, but you have to progressively power up your sword in order to get it up to the level that you need it at for the adventure, or to beat the game, or whatever it is.
I mean, you probably can't even use it in the state we see it in.
Yeah,
here.
maybe
It looks
not.
like if you try to hit something with it, you'd only be able to use the blunt end of it.
Right,
That's it.
exactly.
It looks like it wouldn't last if you tried swinging that thing around right now.
Yeah.
I do like that idea of powering it up throughout the game, though. That would be an interesting dynamic where, like, maybe it slowly gets fixed, and shooting out beams or whatever, they gradually go further.
It's interesting too, but that actually kind of fills a gap that Breath of the Wild had, because there wasn't, Breath of the Wild's progression was definitely different to most games, because there wasn't, you know, the progression was almost whatever you made of it. The two concrete ways of progression you had in terms of like scaling up your abilities was the hearts and the stamina. Basically defense and I mean, I guess your well-being. I don't know, but adding the sword as a third element, it would be your offense, your offensive capabilities. That's something that they didn't quite have before, outside of the natural progression of finding more powerful items in the environment. So that could add a slightly interesting new wrinkle to this. And I do wonder now too how they're going to handle the stamina and hearts thing. Like, part of me kind of wishes, I don't think they'll do this, I've talked about before, where you can just carry over your save file from the first game. So you straight up, they pull a Banjo-Tooie. You have everything from before. Full hearts, full stamina, whatever it is, and then you just build on that. I don't know if they'll do that again, but I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, will you have to rebuild everything up then, if not? Or
That would be pretty cool, like, if they actually did that. Although I would feel bad for people that played the game originally on Wii U, because they probably wouldn't be able to
they're
transfer that
screwed.
over. But
3 hearts, baby.
But I think we'll probably see, because of what's happened to Link, he, I don't know, was reset or something. Like, he doesn't have any of his powers and abilities. He doesn't have the Sheikah Slate with him, so all of his progress in the previous game is no longer there, sadly. Before we forget too, we do have a couple super chats we should get through before. I saw the notification on the side went away, but
yeah. So let's see. I had one here from Still Alive for $5. Thank you, Still Alive. It says, how about a 2D Zelda collection in the meantime, like the Oracle games, Minish Cap, Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass? Yeah, come on, Nintendo. I mean, that'd be cool.
I would love that, but oh man, Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass would be so hard to do. You would have to completely remake them when you don't have a stylus-based touchscreen.
Right.
Yeah,
or
that would be difficult.
or make it virtual console like they did on the Wii U. which is weird. The DS Virtual Console, and even then, that was the touch screen based with the stylus, and Switch doesn't really have that, so those games would be really hard to bring on the Switch. But the other super chat we had was from Ryan Brooks for $5. So thank you for that. They said we can also now confirm that Link's face is not corrupted on the one side. This theory came about because until now we had not seen Link's full face.
Yeah, this was basically a face reveal, and it was almost a little disappointing because it's just Link's face. Like, it's why were they hiding that before? Maybe it wasn't intentional, but yeah, it's like, okay, it's that is just Link. It looks like. So
maybe they didn't realize it. They're like, oh yeah, we didn't show it. I guess we could let them know.
yeah.
And I almost got a haircut.
Yeah, that was real. Like I said, the real story of this whole thing. I saw another chat up here, not super chat, but it came from Jay Bear, who brings up a point I've seen on social media. They saw Elden Ring and said, "We ain't about that." Yeah, I mean, this does resolve the conflict of what could be the game of the year. You know, is it Elden Ring, which seems to be an early contender? Could it be Breath of the Wild too? But yeah, they just remove themselves entirely out of the equation. And are there even any like big open world games you know coming next year that could possibly compete, at least on that front, with Zelda?
I can't even think of other games coming in
They all came
2023.
out recently. I would have liked to see that Elden Ring versus
I know that would have been
Breath of the
interesting.
Wild head to head, and Horizon in there too. So
True.
That would have been great. I think Elden Ring would take it over Horizon. But you're right, that would have been a great three-way competition at least in open world space. So it is a little disappointing it's not happening. I love the idea. I don't think that was a reason, but I do love the idea that Nintendo's like, oh god, Elden Ring is getting all this attention. Let's not compete with that for Game of the Year. So.
Katarina in chat says the Sonic Frontiers potentially.
Oh, that actually is a good point.
Is currently slated for this year, but that also sounds like it might be getting moved out to next year.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to live in a world where a Sonic game could be a Game of the Year title. So please deliver on that front, Sonic team. Don't let us down.
I thought you were gonna say something else, but I won't say it because it'll anger Sonic fans.
Yeah, I'm not sure then. So probably.
Okay, we live in a world where the Sonic movie could be movie of the year.
That too.
That or like where a Sonic game could be good. Is what I say.
Yeah, exactly. WikiStack says Breath of the Wild pushed to 2023 WTF. Yeah, that has been a common reaction I've seen. A lot of people surprised by this. I honestly could not like I said before, I was just feeling this in my bones. This is like the least surprising thing I've seen in my life. So like, I mean, obviously I wanted to be wrong. I wanted to play it this year, but I'm not surprised, and I'm not particularly like concerned about this. Like, it's only a few months later. Like, it could possibly, like, we're at a point now in the year now that we could be playing it by this time next year. You know, it could be right. So it's possible, if not within a couple of months of that. So we are within a year's release of Breath of the Wild 2 or the sequel, whatever. I wish we had a name. Give us a name. E3, we better have a name for this game finally.
I do think we like. I know a bunch of people are treating this as since the game's not coming out till next spring, people are thinking we won't even see anything else about the game till like near then. No. We're definitely still gonna see the game at least one more time this year. I would be shocked if
oh, for sure.
They need the info dump to at least give us the name.
Yep.
Well, that's a big reveal to hold on to their cards like till the very end. Like, that's going to be something to make it more exciting. And Declan also mentioned Final Fantasy 16 and God of War, the next God of War.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah,
those are also next year. Yeah. I think, like, realistically, I mean, doing this announcement now does make me wonder if E3, whatever form it takes, if Zelda won't be there, because this could have just been something they said and did there. So maybe it won't. But I'd be shocked if it wasn't in like the September, generally like the September direct we tend to get, or sometime in the fall, or, you know, I guess if for some reason we don't see anything about it till the February one in 2023.
Oh, yeah.
Even then, that's so close at that point. Like,
yeah.
The only way I could see that happening if it was September instead of E3, because I feel like Zelda is like really tied to that time slot, is that what Mark Tucknart was saying, where's the new DK and Odyssey 2? If one of those games was coming, they could really focus on that at E3 time instead.
Exactly. Like, it is weird to imagine E3 without Breath of the Wild 2, but I don't think it's a lock for it either. I think they could go E3 without having it be a focus at least. I think it would be there in some form. Well, actually, now this is because it's not physical this year, so I was actually thinking with that mindset. I do think it would be okay. I'm gonna correct myself. I do think it will be at E3 in some form. It may not be the big focus though, and that could be a new title, as you're saying, Tom. I still think it could be the big focus, but I think it could just as easily not be, and that they talk about later this year. I don't think there's a chance though that we go all the way to 2023 without getting a big blowout on this game. Though.
Yeah.
I think we'll get. I think the big blowout is this year. Just a matter of whether it's E3 or a few months later in like September or fall, for the fall direct or whatever.
We'll get a direct just on the sequel to Breath of the Wild direct in like mid-November, and they'll be like, "Hey, fun fact: this day is when we were gonna release the game." They won't actually say that.
No,
but
they won't. That'd be hilarious.
It'll be on like a Friday, and everyone will be like, "Wait a minute, you were gonna release it here, weren't you?"
So I would love it, like a Sakurai just showing off one of the new fighters. It's just Aonuma and Miyamoto sitting in a room like watching TV. I could accept that for like 40 minutes.
That'd be fun.
I'd be mesmerized.
I want a channel dedicated watching Miyamoto and Aonuma just watching TV. Like I want this meta thing.
I would watch it, sadly, yes.
That would be incredible. Hound has a comment here. They said they shouldn't have aimed for a 22 release unless they were 100% confident of it happening. I mean, the thing is, like, even if you're 100%, I mean, to be fair, to their credit, they did say targeting, so they never they were never that confident in it, or at least they didn't come across as super confident in it. But regardless, like, things can always come up. Like, a pandemic wasn't anticipated. Now, granted, I think they did say targeting after or during, after the pandemic has started. But even still, like, unforeseen events can happen. So it's not,
Unfortunately, they let go of the Z button.
Yes, they weren't targeting hard enough. That's right. They screwed up. They had 20 years of practice with Ocarina, but wasn't enough. So yeah, I mean, unforeseen things can come up. Maybe there was a change at some point that necessitated more time. Who knows? I don't think Nintendo deliberately lied, and you're not saying that either. You're just saying they shouldn't have announced it, they hadn't locked it in. But conversely, if they hadn't announced some kind of date, I think people would have been losing their minds. Like, when in the hell is Zelda coming out? So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I think ultimately this isn't a terrible thing. So
no, it's not too far out from when it was originally expected, and they're being transparent about it. I mean, right. I think the reaction would have been worse if they didn't do this, had a new trailer at E3, and then E3 they show, oh, it's actually spring 2023, and people are like, what happened to 2022? Like, Aonuma came on screen to talk about it and, tell everyone, this is now what we're looking at. And I think that's a good way to handle it, honestly.
I like how Zach had the comment earlier. He had like flashbacks of the Metroid Prime 4 reboot at first. He's like, oh no.
Yeah, I had that too. Like, this straight up had that like Metroid Prime 4 feeling. Although that would have been hilarious. Like, we're rebooting. Retro Studios is taking over Breath of the Wild 2.
Space confirmed in that situation.
I mean, I actually tweeted earlier, like, do you think there's a chance that Metroid Prime 4 could launch could release before Breath of the Wild 2? Because we just started we just got new concept art for the game a couple months ago. But
no, I think you hold on to it. Even if it's done, like, I would say Zelda will be earlier, and you save Metroid for later in the year.
I agree.
I can actually see both of them being 2023. Like, I can see those being two big titles for next year.
I totally agree with that. I think, which is going to be an amazing year that ends up being the case. Which already kind of that strengthens our videos from earlier. Like, we were talking about, like, how the Switch is only halfway through it. Supporting Nintendo's point, the Switch is only halfway through its lifespan. Like, if we're getting Metroid Prime 4, Breath of the Wild 2 next year, that gets us close to year 8 at that point, I think, right? Yeah, which is nuts. Like, we're almost at a decade of Switch at that point, of Switch itself. Not that there couldn't be a successor before then, but the Switch is clearly still would still be a pillar for Nintendo. Anyways, we're straying from the point here. But yeah, so getting back to the announcement of this, I think as we were kind of just touching on, I think the fact they're announcing it now actually might give credence to the idea of this being at E3. They want to get this out of the way. They didn't want the delay to be a talking point whenever they do show off the game next. And then it actually does strengthen the idea that we could be seeing it sooner than later. Sorry?
The Wii name strategy.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
What'd you say, Tris?
I just said hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Tom, you're exactly. Yeah, I'm thinking the Wii. Like the Wii, the 3DS as well, they announced like the basic technology that beforehand. Like Nintendo likes to get the bad news out, or potential bad news. People didn't like the Wii name at first, but get the bad news out of the way before you show off the good stuff, right? Nintendo's very good at controlling, or oftentimes good at controlling the narrative. Or helping to inform the narrative, I suppose. And they want it so when they finally are ready to show off this game, it's only good things, hopefully. So
Yeah, I mean, again, like I mentioned before, if they had announced, if they just did a trailer E3 and you saw the new date, that would have been everyone's main takeaway and focusing on the negative to it. So as you said, this gets it out of the way, and now everyone's anticipating actual news and more on the game, especially with this little teaser of this extra clip that we got here. So it means next time we see it, everyone's only going to be focusing on the positives of it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, Chris just said, watch them announce Age of Calamity 2 at E3 with absolutely no mention of Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh my god. That would be amazing. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Yeah, you would see hearts like actually break. Like physical hearts would just fall apart. Silver Lunar says this announcement feels like purely a business move. I mean, it's partially that, for sure. I mean, in a sense, every move Nintendo makes is a business move. So I mean, this is definitely done though with the intent of, like, as we just discussed, like, keeping their consumer base, like, aware, informed, and content with what's happening. And that's that's also to help, in an indirect way of managing finances too. I'm sure they don't want.
They're investors. They have to let their investors
exactly.
know too at some point.
So yeah, I mean, there's a variety of reasons for the announcement. And who knows when Nintendo actually arrives at this decision. It may have been recently, it may have been a while ago. Who knows? But we're just finding out about it now in any case.
The investor thing raises a good point, because isn't there like their big annual thing in Japan normally in like a couple days? So the timing would make sense.
Oh crap! Wait, that's kind of, I was like, no, Tris, it's at the end of the month. I'm like, oh my god, this is the end of the month. Where the hell did March go?
Chris, it's at the end of the fiscal year. There, it's like, oh wait, it is the
yeah. No, that's exactly right.
Granted, we don't see the results of that for like 2 months, but that meeting, that fiscal earnings is in a couple days. So this actually makes perfect sense.
It does.
To make this announcement now, then, because it's right before that. And they won't need to worry about talking about it then, because it's no longer part of that.
Exactly, 100%. So yeah, that probably was a big reason for this. That way they don't have to field questions from their investors like, "Where's Breath of the Wild 2?" Now they have the concrete answer for that. So
yep.
Juan says they should release a Metro Prime trilogy. It would help the fourth game. We talked about that in our 2022 predictions. I forget where we landed on it, but I would love for that to happen. That's been rumored for almost as long as the Switch has been around at this point. Re-release the trilogy, or the remake, as it seems, in the case of the first game at the least, or remaster. Mm-hmm. Whatever it ends up being, we need them. I believe they exist. I fully believe they exist. It's a matter of timing. I do hope that they come this year. And I think that could be one of those surprise Nintendo Direct announcements that we get.
Even if it's just the first one, I would take just Metroid Prime 1. So.
Casey Supersonic says they wouldn't do that because Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes is already coming out this year. No way they'll have another Hyrule Warriors game in development at the same time. LOL. Oh yeah, I agree. It would just be really funny if they did that. So. OJ, is that OJ? Yeah. OJ Gamer 90 says, would Odyssey 2 release before Breath of the Wild 2? That's an interesting point. I think I actually talked about this in our 2022 predictions. I don't think it's impossible. Basically, my vantage point was there's been rumors of a new Donkey Kong game. Also, my stance is that there's either a new Mario game or Donkey Kong game in development. I suspect by the Odyssey team. And I don't think they're both in development at the same time, although maybe they are. Who knows?
They could be.
In any case, they could be. It's possible. Maybe there's different teams. I don't know. But I do think it's possible that we get either one or the other this year. So if we get Donkey Kong game, then we get a Mario. If we get Mario, there's no Donkey Kong. So I think it's possible we do get a surprise announcement at E3 or E3 time for a game that's coming that will take that November slot that Zelda would have presumably had. So I think it is possible to get an Odyssey 2, but I feel like an Odyssey 2 is an overall simpler project than the Breath of the Wild sequel. Because honestly, I think they could just do what they did with Galaxy 2. The same basic game structure, just new levels, new abilities, a new story, if even that. And there you go. That's your new game. Not that there's not a ton of work involved in that, but they had the parameters figured out. Whereas Breath of the Wild 2 seems a little bit more ambitious with figuring out how to make a game work in at least partially the same world again and make that interesting.
Yeah. I do think between the two, between Mario or Donkey Kong, I actually think it's more likely we see something new from Mario this year. Around that time Zelda would have come out, possibly to help promote the movie. Or tie into the Mario movie at some point. Or just some sort of Mario celebration. Like, oh, look, Mario movie, if you like this, go check out the new Mario game. So, something along those lines. Granted, we haven't seen anything in the movie yet either, but...
Yeah, that is true.
If it shared some of the same environments or something for the levels, if it's like a new area.
Yes, the movie, the game.
Yeah. If you want to throw DK in there, I mean, with Cappy, they basically already have Hatful mode, just Cappy go on DK, then you control him in different levels.
That would be pretty cool. You know what? We haven't had that proper Mario and Donkey Kong reunion in like a mainline Mario or Donkey Kong game. We need that. Like let's bring it back full circle. Like they teased it in Odyssey with New Donk City and the 8-bit Donkey Kong being, I don't know, I put that in quotes, but the 8-bit Donkey Kong being there. I would love if they actually had like a proper adventure together. Like how cool would that be, right? I don't know how you marry the two again, but their gameplays are very different, or to a degree. But I think that'd be awesome. I would love that. So that'd be amazing. I don't know if I want Mario controlling him with Cappy though. That seems a little. I mean, the Cappy things are always a little creepy when you think about it. Like you're just unwillingly taking possession of these unwilling creatures, and there's nothing they can do about it. And Mario has like access to all their memories and everything. Like, it's like what the hell's going on here? It's so messed up.
It's better than just annihilating whole different species like Goombas and stuff.
That's true.
Come on.
All right, to bring it back to Zelda, Nate Nader Space Invader says, I wake up to this news and a bunch of crying emojis. I know, I woke up to this news too. I'm like, what? I didn't expect this news to happen today. But like I said, I was kind of expecting this news. But yes, it is disappointing. It is a random news drop on a Tuesday morning, I think it is now. So that's Nintendo's way. That's Nintendo's way. Like, I almost would have expected this as part of a direct or something, like just toss it in there as to kind of bury that news with other good news from other games,
But I think that's the point. They didn't want this buried, but they also didn't want this to become the negative filled with positives that people focused on, making it its own focus thing. Like when they announced what restarting development for Metroid Prime 4, it helps because this is the only thing people have to worry about right now. When they have a direct with more positive things to share, everyone's going to focus on all of those. And this won't get buried or be the spotlight, and vice versa.
Right.
Yep.
So, go ahead, Tom.
I just still get it out of everyone's system by that point.
Exactly. So I want to bring it back to what Iwata said, or sorry, not Iwata. I'm sorry, Aonuma, who said, however, the expanded world goes beyond that, and there'll be an even wider variety of features you can enjoy, including new encounters and new gameplay elements. So taking it like a broad scope look at this game. What else are we hoping for from this? Like, especially now that he explicitly is confirming that there's more beyond what we've seen. I mean, the way I take that comment, and maybe I'm off base here, is that there's more to this world than what we've seen before. So that means beyond the skies, beyond the caves, and beyond the existing blueprint that we played in Breath of the Wild. I'm taking as there's like new areas here, or at least it's something new enough that it would qualify as something along those lines. But what's your take on that, Triss? Like, what are you kind of expecting in a broad view from Breath of the Wild 2 now?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Where I think it means there's more than meets the eye. There's more than what we currently expect. Granted, it sounds like we're setting expectations higher now, but
well, you do go high in the game.
That's true. I think the expectation they're telling us to kind of get our expectations in check for the fact that this isn't just going to be more in the world of Breath of the Wild. Right. There's the sky. There's other things to do, and look forward to when we get to learn more about what these different things are. Enough to make it a different game, not just a DLC expansion.
Juan says, underwater exploration, please. Yes, take a page out of Horizon 2's book. Give us that underwater. Because that would be a fun way. I had a whole video about this. Like, how can they expand the world of Breath of the Wild 2 without actually expanding it? And I think that would be a fun thing. Like, let's explore all those lakes that you could already see in the world, you know? They could hide things under there that it's like, hey, look what was here all this time, though they actually never were.
You could put big Zoro cities under there if you wanted to.
Yes!
Ooh.
Towns.
Cool.
Yeah,
That would be cool.
we've never had it under. Oh, I guess wait, the Oracle games had underwater Zora town, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see that in 3D. That would be cool. Because Zoras for being a water-based creature are above water quite often, like surprisingly often.
That's probably just because it's hard to to get players to enjoy being underwater in a lot of games.
Right. We got, let's say, Kimbo with a chat says, if there's underwater exploration, dungeons, and the craziest being playable Zelda in the GTA 5 style, man, that would be insane. Wait, what's the GTA 5 style? Like you just switch between them?
I think it means like in the GTA 5 style in terms of like switching between them, big open world exploration. Yeah.
That's something we haven't even touched on yet. Like, really is like, yeah, how is Zelda factoring into all of this? You know, like the reveal trailer had her there alongside Link, but then the second trailer had her dying seemingly. She's dead. What's going on there?
I still feel pretty confident that this is gonna have some parallels to Skyward Sword. Of you're spending a good amount of time looking for Zelda, and then a good amount of time repairing the Master Sword, or a mix of both. But
like, I hope that when you find Zelda in this game, assuming that is one of the goals, that then changes the game. Like, then as I forget their name. It was Kimbo, I think, K1bo something. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. You actually then could use, if you could then play as her. Like, if you actually could play as Zelda for the first time in a 3D Zelda game. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Well, like if they had some parallels where you switch at different points and you are playing as Zelda, trying to get out of the caves or doing something in there to help Link up above. I mean, something like that would be cool. I would love to have playable Zelda in the game.
Well, how nuts would it be if they actually went full co-op on this, where you actually could play together through the game at the same time, either online or with a second Switch nearby, and you can actually have. I mean, the problem with it is, I guess it could do it like. You could still have co-op, like the puzzles that would work in single player where you would have to switch could be more elegant with two people playing at the same time, where you don't have to worry about switching yourself. You just have both of you handle it. I don't think they would do this because that would be, it just feels unlike Nintendo to do that for this, but that would be an amazing kind of new thing to explore.
As amazing as that would be, I do think that's a little unlikely, just because I'm trying to imagine like they would try to push you to be able to do that locally as well, and oh god, the split screen would be awful for that.
Well, yeah, that's why I don't think there'd be split screen. It would have to be your own switch, like either two switches locally or online. So
yeah, and as neat as it is, I don't think they'll go that far with it. I mean, personally, I think we'll be lucky to even see Zelda actually playable in some capacity in the main story, even if it's just swapping to Zelda and she plays underground, whereas Link goes above ground and in the sky. Like, I guess
that would be so freaking cool. Like, if there was some way that these different levels of the thing is now, like, we know there's at least 3 layers to this Hyrule. There's an underground, there's a ground level, and the sky. And I like, what would be super cool if there's some way that all 3 interface. I don't know what that would be, but like, if there was something you could do like underground that would affect the sky, for instance, or something else elsewhere, and you have to collaborate with Link in the sky and Zelda underground in order to like make that happen. That could be really freaking cool. Like, maybe, I don't know, like maybe they each have like a magnet and like that controls something in the middle on the ground surface level, I don't know, like you're moving things around.
How to bring the islands crashing.
Yeah, there you go, exactly, right.
Oh gosh.
The gaming Troge, I think Troge with a $2 super chat, thank you, says, hear me out, Breath of the Wild is 4-player online co-op. Oh my god, bring back 4 swords, yes.
That'd be nuts.
That'd be great.
Can we get 4 Swords Adventures as the Zelda game for this year, please?
Yeah, I take it.
Put that on Switch, make that accessible online.
That'd be so fun. Yes, that'd be a great. That'd be a surprise. That'd be an awesome Zelda surprise to help fill the gap. Make that online. Yeah. I never even fully played it, so. But I think, Tom, we should now, if it doesn't come to Switch. Now that I've got the analog pocket, we can hook it up to our GameCube.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Much more manageable than if they did something like 99 Swords.
Yeah. Hey, I'll take 99 Swords too. I don't care.
It would just be like Fall Guys and Zelda, basically.
Oh gosh.
Greninja Awesome says, guys, I would love to stay, but I have to go back to school. See y'all later. Well, thank you, Greninja. School's definitely more important. So go do that. Stay in school.
Thanks for joining.
Disinferno says, Prime 4, let's go. I mean, I like we talked about earlier, I don't think it's this year. That would be incredible, though, if that actually was the big game this year. I don't think it is, though, just because I don't think... first off, I think that would have necessitated Metroid Prime 4 somehow being ahead of schedule, but I don't think Nintendo have ever planned for both those games being at around the same time of year. That just seems like too big of a conflict, although they did release some Mario and Zelda on the same day before, so, who knows, maybe they would. Let's see here. Just looking at the chat. Gears of War asks, so does this mean we get Twilight Princess and Wind Waker on Switch this year? We actually talked about this earlier. We think there's a good chance. We hope, exactly. Yeah, Shane says, yeah, people are on the Wind Waker train now. Wind Waker HD for holiday now, says Shane. Yeah, I mean, certainly. I would be surprised if we go to the end of this year without a Zelda experience made for Switch. Or, available on Switch.
Can't say train. I think Spirit Tracks.
I love Spirit Tracks. So yes, give us an updated version of that in HD with new textures.
We need a lot more than that to run on the Switch, but yeah,
right.
We need a whole new gameplay control scheme.
Yeah, I mean, it would work in handheld mode, kind of.
Well, it still wouldn't because the Switch doesn't have a mic. And part of the whole thing of that game is like the pan flute and blowing air into that and drawing on the screen. You can
make that flute stuff a button press. It'd be better, honestly. that flute stuff is weak.
But that's my point. You would need to update the control scheme.
Well, yeah, but that's easy. Like that one's easy. Like yeah, just have a button press act as your mic. I will concede the touchscreen controls are harder for using a conventional controller, so that would be a bit of a problem. I guess you could just give Link like conventional controls for some of it. Like instead of pointing where Link's going, you just move him. You give him a sword slash like normal. The boomerang would be a bit tricky. I think a few other items would be, but Alan Wickinson with a $2 super chat. Thank you. Says, will we ever get that original girl Link in a game? Do you mean wait? Are you talking from the art from like the 80s? Where I think it was Famitsu or someone had art. I don't know if they misinterpreted or what happened, but yeah, there's like this art of like a female Link, and it's kind of amazing looking. It's like, yeah, I would love to have a female Link at some point. Because the cool thing about Link is that like he's already transcended a single form. Like he's already effectively a single entity, right? But in different bodies, like different forms of him, like being reincarnated. So I see no reason why he couldn't come back as a in form of like a woman Link or something.
Unless they're talking about Linkle from Hyrule Warriors.
That could be it too.
We know Aonuma wants to use Linkle again.
That'd be. I mean,
either one.
Do we think Linkle ever gets incorporated into a mainline Zelda game? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, it would be fun. I think the closest opportunity they would have had would have been Age of Calamity.
Right.
With because Link had a family in Breath of the Wild. Or implied family, including a younger sister. And they could have done that, but they didn't, so oh well.
Josh says, Nintendo's adamant that Link is a dude, lol. Best you'll get is Linkle. Zelda is also essentially a female Link, design-wise. I mean, I don't think you're wrong on most of that. I think you are right. Nintendo did seem very, very adamant about that, so... Casey Supersonic says, not as Linkle, it would just be a female Link. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think, I feel like Linkle is resigned to that one appearance in Hyrule Warriors. I would be surprised if we see her again outside of possibly another Hyrule Warriors. So, yeah. Well, any other points, chat, that we need to bring up, or Triss, anything else you want to bring up about this new gameplay that we've seen, or the delay?
I'm just glad we actually got something new. I mean, like I joked back in our predictions for the February Nintendo Direct that the only presence Breath of the Wild 2 would have had was Aonuma coming on screen. We don't have anything new to share right now, but the development is progressing smoothly.
Yep.
And then they give us like the title. So this is actually better. It's a month and a half later, but this is actually better because it's basically the same thing, but instead of the title, we actually got a new look at gameplay, and it's a pretty significant looking scene, all things considered. Like it's not just another shot of Link running through the field.
No, what's funny,
cutscene clip, which
what's
is
funny
great.
too is how they just snuck it in there among all these old clips to the point where I saw people
Yep.
on Twitter even questioning if it was new. Because like they really hid it in there well, but they just show off a bunch of old clips like, oh, here's this brand new one, you know?
Watch,
Yeah.
they had it in there at E3, and they're just like, nah, we won't show that just yet. And then they just back in now.
Yeah, Josh NT says that 2 seconds of new footage will hold us over for a few months. I mean, yeah, it has to. Like, I mean, the soonest we'll see it again, I believe, would be E3, and that's not even a guarantee. But I do think we probably would see it at E3. But again, not certainty. So, yeah. Chat, is there anything else you want us to? Any other points about this you want us to bring up before we wrap it up? Because I think we pretty thoroughly exhausted it. Maybe it will last us a few months. I think we already got most of what we can out of it.
So I was just surprised at how the Switch Pro didn't seem like a possibility for you two, but I guess that does seem like a possible curveball into all this. But I guess we'll find out next year. And
Yeah,
those
I mean,
chip shortages.
my feelings on that like vary by the second, literally. Like now, like I was thinking about more after I said my comments earlier. I'm like, well, you know, I think actually it's still possible. I mean, I haven't even ruled out the idea that the OLED is meant to be something more before the supply chain got completely ruined by, you know, the pandemic. So I still, and especially with more recent rumblings of, you know, seemingly even more concrete rumblings, of course, of the everlasting Pro rumors. But you know, now that we have a seemingly more definitive idea of it incorporating NVIDIA's DLSS technology for 4K upscaling, I actually do think it is actually entirely possible that we do get a Switch Pro or Switch successor, whatever. I won't call it that. But that makes it seem like it's replacing the Switch. I don't think it would.
Yeah.
Like a Switch thing by possibly in time for Breath of the Wild 2. Like it would make sense to co-launch those two, just as they did with the Switch and Breath of the Wild. And just like before, it would work on both systems. You know, it would work on the current Switch, it would work on the next Switch, but you would get 4K visuals and maybe a few other smaller enhancements. And that would be, by that point, we would be 6 years out from the release of the original Switch. And if not in time for the release of Breath of the Wild 2, it could come out later, and Breath of the Wild 2 would then be patched or updated to be compatible, or better compatible, I should say, with a 4K Switch or whatever. So yeah, I do think it's entirely possible. I'm just so focused on Breath of the Wild 2, it's hard to imagine much more happening at the same time, but you know, a year is a long time, and a lot could change in that year. And who knows, we could even get it this year. It could even, a new Switch could precede Breath of the Wild 2, and then that could act as almost a post-launch launch window title that that bolsters it, exactly.
I still think personally, I'm still on the belief that any sort of new version of a Switch or sequel to the Switch or whatever it would be won't be until after all the Mario Kart DLC finishes and sometime in 2024. So personally, I'm still of the belief that it won't happen anytime too soon, and this has nothing to do with that, but could be wrong.
That's a good idea. Yeah, they might as well take their time if the Switch is still doing well.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's why
it's not like we're in a drought of software, that's for sure.
No, we're not at all, and that's why I think any kind of successor would be the form of like a Game Boy Color, where like it's not replacing the hardware that came before it. It's just merely offering like an upgrade, mostly not replacing. It would be primarily an upgraded form that just allows you to get better visuals. Like especially if they are leaning into the 4K side of things using the AI upscaling. That might just be the core focus, where it really is just about getting a 4K experience on your TV rather than upgrading much else about the hardware. So who knows? We'll see. It's all speculative. We really don't know when or what is all going to happen. We don't even know what Breath of the Wild 2 is going to be called yet. So I just want a name. Give me a name.
So you're saying the version on the Switch Pro gets an extra dungeon?
Yes, an extra color dungeon specifically. So.
Oh, there you go.
May Raiden says, I think Splatoon 3 is going to be in the new console. If they're going to dally with Bayonetta 3 and Metroid Prime 4. Wait, okay. I'm a little confused. Splatoon 3 is already confirmed for this year. Did they give a release window for that, Triss? Or
for Splatoon 3? That's the summer, yeah.
Summer, I thought so, yeah. So yeah, I don't think that's changing. Like if that ends up getting delayed, it'd be by months, not to next year. So
yeah.
So unless I totally misunderstood that comment, which I don't think I did. So yeah, so Splatoon 3 is a lock for the Switch. Splatoon 4 could be the next one. Anyways, any final thoughts, Triss?
I'm just excited now that we had more. This'll if we didn't have anything since last E3 and now we have this, yeah, this will tide me over until E3. But I will be a little upset if there's nothing new at that point.
Tom?
Plenty of games this year. Take your time to do it right.
Yeah.
All right. I've got a couple final comments here. First up, AI Max says, did you guys already talk about the Breath of the Wild 2 patents that Nintendo filed? This was a little while ago, wasn't it? Or was this
Yeah,
new?
I think this was like months. I think this. I don't think there are any new ones. I haven't heard of any new ones. I think this is the ones from like months back where it talked about like being able to like move like through platforms and such. That's the one I'm thinking of, and like the aerial bow movements. Like yeah, I think we did a whole thing on that back when those happened. That was months ago at this point. I don't remember.
I do think, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much there is to say, and I forget we discussed it then, but I do love the idea of the being able to move through like surfaces, like we saw in the second trailer. Like if that's more of a mechanic than just if that's more of an actual mechanic rather than like a toggle, like you have to go to this specific spot in order to go up to the level above. That could be really neat, I think. Just like that might make you think about puzzles in a new way, perhaps. Like, I mean, it's hard to imagine how exactly, but like I can see that being cool, where like you can actually. It reminds me a little bit of the device they had in the first of the new Spider-Man movies, where they had that like portal or hole creator. We could like go through solid matter. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So I hope that plays a bigger role in the game than it seemed like, or than it possibly might. So. Yeah, and then let's see. Hound also says some insider claims of the title of the game would be Breath of Duality. Did you hear about this? Yeah, we talked about it earlier. I mean, it could be, it may not be. I don't know. I'm not putting much stock in that specific idea.
No.
It doesn't quite Breath of Duality. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could be. I mean, there are, you are in two different time periods at the least, it seems. So maybe, but I don't know. I feel like duality is a big word for Nintendo to use. I don't know. Dark Lord says they could be like the warps in the Dark World in A Link to the Past. Right, and that's something we talked about before. Like, I mean, also, like, does that act as a toggle? Like, is the sky only in the past? Like if you're in the sky world, does that mean you're always in the past? And if you're on the surface, are you always in the present? That's another thing that I'm curious about that we have no idea about. Like, how exactly is time incorporated into this game? Is it a universal change like in Ocarina, or something a little bit more subtle that happens? Like, and even then, like when you're in the sky in the past, are you looking at the present world down below, or is that the past version of the world down below?
Yeah, it raises a lot of questions in that case.
It does. It truly does. So.
B. James brings up in chat, there was a sword in Breath of the Wild called the Edge of Duality. It was a Sheikah-based weapon.
Huh. I don't know that. I don't think it lends any credence to the rumor or not, but that's interesting. Edge of Duality. Sounds like, I don't know, sounds like a Soul Calibur title.
Soul still burns.
Yep. Yes, it does. All right. I think we're going to about wrap it up here. I think, well, real quick, Juan says, voice actor for Ganondorf, perhaps? Do we think Ganondorf could be?
Shocked. I'd be shocked if he didn't get some sort of voice acting.
I guess Ganondorf would be here, right? Because he was in the ancient artwork, so that'd be neat.
Not even just ancient artwork. I mean, we have that weird Ganondorf-like corpse that we saw.
Actually, of course, too. Yeah, I still have trouble like even imagining that as Ganondorf. It's just like such a horrible looking version of him. That
he just wakes up and says, "Time to finish the job."
Time to finish the fight. Yeah, no, I think Ganondorf would definitely have voice acting. Just as to the same degree that the other characters have had in the first Breath of the Wild. Like, I would actually love if they increased the amount of voice acting in this game, but knowing Nintendo, I don't think they would. So
it would be nice, but it's setting the bar a little high, sadly.
Josh NT says, really hoping for a Chris Pratt Ganondorf. Oh my god.
No.
That's your Mario movie tie-in right there.
Mario's Ganondorf? Wow.
Mariendorf? I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna wrap it up here. We've gone off the rails, off the spirit tracks, if you will. So thanks for watching our live discussion, everyone. We just had to talk about this, with Zelda being delayed to 2023, which isn't, amazing news, but ultimately will probably be for the better for the game. And again, isn't even that big of a delay. It's really probably just a few months beyond what most people were expecting, assuming it doesn't get delayed again, which I don't think it will, given the fact they gave us a spring window. So I'm excited for it. I can't wait. The new Master Sword footage is exciting. I want to know how that ties into the gameplay, what the story is exactly this time. Like, you know, it's still funny that the more we see of this game, like, really the less we know, I still feel like. We still know nothing about this game, really. So I just want to know how it all ties together. We can speculate until the end of time, but we got, you know, I just want to know how it all, like, how concretely how it ties together. So hopefully E3 will be that time, but we'll see. And if that is the case, we're only a few months out from that possibly happening. But on that note, everyone, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this live emergency discussion of this really seemingly random delay. And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for tons more on Zelda, Kirby the Forgotten Land, and everything else happening in the near future for Nintendo and everything else. So on that note, we'll